Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Until things are settling down little by little, I would like to do something that you might like. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Sinead Keel, and I am the founder of Excellence in Expat Education. This is a company dedicated to assessing international schools in Egypt and around the world, enhancing their profile among the expat community, and at the same time helping international families and local families find the best fit school for their children. I would like to, before I introduce everybody, before we start officially, I would like to show you something that's quite special. On your chairs or next to your chairs, you should have a small leaflet, and I will tell you all about it in a minute. But for now, can you just turn it over to the blank page, please? Can you grab a pencil or a pen, something to write with? I'm a teacher to start with. There you go. Gonna do something, what we call in teaching warm-up. Gonna nice warm-up event like this. And I'd like you to take a few seconds to draw 3 circles. So draw 3 circles on the back of this paper, please. Draw 3 circles. And please do it, because after that, once you know what it's all about, then it's spoiled and you won't ever know where you're at with this project. Are we done? 10 seconds. Five seconds. Time? Yeah, got your circles? Right. Yeah, got it? Yeah? All right, good. So these 3 circles represent your life. It's not me saying it, it's actually a small psychological test. The first circles that you drew is your past. The second circle that you drew is your present. The third circle is obviously your future. If you haven't drawn them now, it's pointless. Okay. The circle that's the biggest is what you're most proud of. So it's also a matter of culture. British tend to have the past circle the biggest, the largest. American cultures tend to have the future circle the largest. But it can be different for you. If the circles link, it means that whatever you did in the past continues in the present, will be in the future. If the circles don't link, that's a complete different cycle of your life. If the circle is not completely closed, it means unfinished business. And so on. Why am I doing this? It's because I work with expats. Expats are people who move from country to country, who relocate for job reasons usually, right? And their circles usually don't link, because what you do today, you might not do tomorrow, and where you're at today, it might not be the same in 5 years. And this is quite difficult, and one of the things that they are most frustrated about, and one of the things that gives them it makes them nervous is choosing the best school for their children. So in Egypt, now if you can turn on the other side, we have developed an application called Find Me a School, because that's what they're calling us for. Can you please find me a school for my child? And this application is now available on Play Store, so that means the Androids. Apple is a bit of a hassle, but it should be there in a couple of days. It's been tested, and you can see where your school is. And if your school is not there, you can talk to me, see what happens. All right. So now that everybody's here, I would like to just give David Pontich the mic for a second before your speech, because he would like to tell you something.
Thanks, Sinead. I just really wanted to say big thanks to Ben Morgan and the team with Education Experts. They're a part of the World Arena events. This is their second year that they've hosted this in Cairo. Having been in Cairo off and on since 2001, I can honestly say these events, well, you can see the way it will grow each and every year, and possibly the best events I've seen in Egypt in all of my time. So a big thanks to them. I know they're doing events across the entire Middle Eastern region, and I've heard good feedback on the events that they've been hosting elsewhere as well. And I think we're probably about ready. Sinead?
We're ready, but we need to thank our sponsors, because without them, these events would not be free for everybody. And if you have the booklet, maybe, or I have seen that the program is also on the AUC keychain QR code. You can see the wonderful sponsors that are helping this event. They're also outside. You can visit them every time we have a break, and we will have quite a few breaks because networking is very important in these events, yeah? So the first company, our gold sponsor, it's StudyGram. Shall we just give them a round of applause, because they deserve it, yeah. I won't read about their activity, because I would like you to go and talk to them and find out what they do. Our silver sponsors, we've got Renaissance, and I have just spoken to them outside. Renaissance. Yes, round of applause for Renaissance. Colliers. Colliers here or still outside? Yay. And Canvas. Okay. And then we have event partners. Of course, AUC are the ones that have agreed to host us. And I know many of you work for AUC, so in various positions. So thank you for hosting us, AUC. Okay. We also have Nile TV International. Nile TV International. They've also partnered with us for this event, and they're going to broadcast it as well. So Nile TV International. Education Middle East. Yes. And then we have Britannica Education. Wonderful. Egypt Education Platform. Edpuzzle. Excellence in Expert Education. Projotech. Kids Inc. and Scholastic. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shall we get started? Yes, with our wonderful speeches. Are we ready to? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I just. Are you ready with? Yeah. Okay, so for our keynote speaker, I would like to invite Dr. Mahmoud Alam. He is the Dean of the School of Continuing Education here at AUC. Doctor?
Thank you. Thank you, Sinead. And let me start by welcoming everyone, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, education experts. Welcome to the Education Experts Conference, organized by World Arena Events and hosted by the School of Continuing Education at the American University in Cairo. As the Dean of the School of Continuing Education, I am honored to stand before you today and emphasize the significance of this event. Having all educators, leaders, and experts from around the world gathered here is a true testament to the growth and evolution of education. It is a clear indication of how the field of education is continuously changing for the better and adapting to new challenges and embracing innovation. This year, the School of Continuing Education at AUC celebrates its centennial. It's a very special occasion for us, and it's even more meaningful to host such a distinguished gathering of individuals who are dedicated to the advancement of education. The range of topics that will be explored in this conference is very rich and diverse, touching on key issues shaping the future of learning and teaching methods and techniques. I'm confident that the insight shared and the discussions held during this conference will inspire us all for further enhancement to our educational practices and make a positive impact on the lives of our learners worldwide. Together, we can drive positive change and shape the future of education for generations to come. In closing, I extend my warmest welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for being part of this important event, and I look forward to the valuable exchanges and collaborations that will undoubtedly emerge from our time together over these coming 2 days. Welcome again, and let us embark on this journey of knowledge and innovation together. Thank you.
Dr. Alam. I would like now to invite David Pontich, yes, Vice President of GEMS, a big chain of schools here in Egypt and everywhere else in the world. And before, can I just say something, please, David? If any of the speakers were to prefer to use a mic like I do, please choose to do so. You're welcome to either move around, speak from here, or from where David is absolutely fine, just for you to know, okay?
Cool, thanks, Sinead. So let's go back to 1996. I've just come back from Australia. I did my teacher training there and was about to move to England, and I go and visit my best friend, Jason. I'm like, hey, Jay, how you doing? And having a conversation, and, you know, been away for a year. Back then, it's kind of difficult to keep in touch. And I'm like, don't worry, there's this new thing out. It's called electronic mail. It's so cool. Write this down. And, of course, he gets out his pen and paper, and he writes down, like, my name, Dave Pontich at hotmail.com. And Jay looks at me and he's like, when did you get so arrogant, Dave? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, Hotmail in your name? What? I'm like, no, Jay. Mail, M-A-I-L. And you think back then, but that's where we were at, right? With Hotmail, what's that? What are you on about? And he's like, you're still going to just send me postcards though, right? I'm like, of course I will. Don't worry about that. But if we want this instant communication, and it seems a bit silly now, but right now I think we're at a really, what was the internet then now in terms of artificial intelligence and the impact that's going to have on society is we're almost sort of at that equivalent time in 1995. I think there's going to be massive radical changes in education. My background's in economics, and I came to Cairo for 6 months in 2001, and well, I've left, but I'm back again, so I've spent about 15 years here. But I came to Cairo because I couldn't afford to go surfing in Mexico, and I was about to do my PhD, and what I was really interested in was looking at the future of cities and quality of life and the impact of technology on quality of life. And I'll be honest, I'm usually a positive guy, but I'm a little bit dystopic at times about what's going on with this AI, and it's scary. But in the last few months, I'm getting increasingly excited about it. All right. Okay, good. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing with, as Sinead said, I'm Vice President for Education with GEMS Egypt. So I oversee the schools here in Egypt. And it's part of a partnership where GEMS is a minority shareholder with Egypt Education Platform to Egyptians here. It's the majority shareholders, EFG Hermes, a big finance company. So there's me and 3 of my colleagues. So there's 4 of us that actually work for and employed and paid for from Dubai, but the other few thousand actually work for the Hermes side of the joint venture. I'm going to tell you a little bit about us and the way we work and our journey with artificial intelligence and education. We get to watch a video, of course, because there's a lot of people, even though I'm an IT enthusiast, there's a lot of people who know way more about this than I, including Sal Khan, and a little bit about some of our startups and the Egyptian context with education and AI and how all that's going and where's it going to go. So the best part of my job undoubtedly is the people I work with. And we've got these things which my boss kept referring to as capabilities. And I couldn't even remember the word, if I'm honest, but now I'm just finished a book, and now I kind of get it a little bit. But to the left, and she's back there, we've got Ronnie. Ronnie oversees our British schools, but one of the things she also specializes in is looking at university and careers guidance. And then we've got Rania, and she was the first additional appointment that I've been able to make since I joined the organization a couple of years ago. She's our Director of Professional Development. She also founded our school in Alexandria. So a big part of what we're doing involves professional development, and the way technology, edtech, and innovation is a huge part of that as well. There's me, and then to the left is Sharif. Sharif actually does some work with AUC. He worked with, Sharif worked with CAC for 28 years as a tech integrator as well. And to the left, and she's just walking in now, is Noha. Noha and Ronnie were both here when I started. Noha oversees the IB American schools, and the capability she focuses on is safeguarding. So we've done a huge amount of work with safeguarding in our schools. I love boating. That happened when I had the chance to spend a bit of time in Qatar. And there's an expression, they say, the only thing better than owning a boat is having a friend with a boat. And when I look at AI and edtech and innovation, although I'm an enthusiast, you can fill a lot of warehouses with what I don't know. And it's so great having Sharif, who's just joined my team in January, who's helped me out immensely in terms of getting me up to speed with where this world's going with AI. A little bit, I won't go through all of our schools, but we've got these, I will make reference to the Prime National Schools. These are these 2, they're sort of like, almost like premium language schools. It's with the Sovereign Fund of Egypt, a partnership we have with them where we're opening these schools. They've got these really cool innovation hubs, and we're really connecting that to the learning. It's something you may want to check out. And the other thing I'll make reference to is this Right to Dream Foundation. This is a nonprofit. I think it's the Mansour family that's behind it. And what they do is they've got this lovely little boarding school. It's in kind of west-west, 6th of October, but it's a beautiful campus. And they go around spotting talent all over Egypt. So they have all of these students that are going to be, say, the next Mo Salah, and it's a football academy where they actually sponsor them. They send them to America, Denmark, Spain, all over the place, fully funded for those that are, say, less financially able, and they're getting this free education, and we support them with their education development plans. It's a really cool thing. And for the Egyptians here, you'll probably know Salah El Telmiz. This is part of our portfolio as well. So one of these capabilities we're talking about is EdTech. And we've been working with the team for a few years. And basically what we're doing and what we've got to the point is for each of those schools we listed there, we've got basically a development plan or a 3-year roadmap in these, what I like to say, buckets. A lot of it's just technology integration, so supporting our teachers, how we integrate technology in the classroom like all of us are doing. Then what we call add-ons, this could be extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, and also a lot of the things, and what we want to do is we don't want to make a lot of these additional programs outside the curriculum. We're trying, which is a challenge of course, because at times always difficult, to bring them inside the curriculum as well. And then this whole big thing, which we're going to hear a lot of, and every time I go to a conference, I'm hearing more and more about AI and artificial intelligence. And then we're looking a lot at our documentation and making action plans. And the documentation's being very intentional with what we're doing and how we're using technology. So Sharif, who I told you about, this is a picture of him at one of our schools, TBS Rahab. He's doing this in all of our schools, leading workshops and showing teachers on how they can use AI to support their planning. So, you know, he's just showing me things. He's helped me out a bit with this presentation. And it just kind of helps me brainstorm. So I was kind of like really busy. Oh, Sharif, can you do this with me? And then 20 minutes, he's got it all done. But then when you start playing with it, you play with it, and it takes probably longer than it would have been had I not. But you just get so many great ideas from it. What he's doing with the planning, he might say, okay, I'm looking at the costs of inflation. So, you know, and they, what do they call it? Prompt engineering, which I'm pretty sure is just fancy speak for like Google searches, but in the AI stuff. And so he's helping us out with that. So, you know, lesson on costs of inflation, 2 students gifted and talented, 1 student ADHD, 1 student dyslexia. And please create me a lesson plan, and 90 minutes. And the lesson plans, it'll almost create 3 or 4 different lesson plans, the differentiations at a complete another level. And the way it's going to impact and support our teachers is absolutely, absolutely amazing. I think it's going to transform education in a huge way. So obviously right there, it helps with personalized learning. You know, you talk about accessibility, giving access to students all over the world to use technology. And you think about that, most of us, I'm guessing, are in education. Can I ask you to put your hand up if your school has all of its staffing needs sorted for September? So if at the school you work at, you don't need any teachers, put your hand up. Yeah. It's right. I'm looking at Catherine. No, we're not there yet, and been working so hard at it. Right. This was I know at the BSME conference. I think it was in Qatar this year. One of the schools that spoke about it, and they're in a remote part, a beautiful part of Oman called Salalah. They're actually hiring teachers from the UK and teaching remotely because they're struggling to get teachers. Our school in Alexandria did that with one of our IB courses. It's actually an AUC economics students is teaching online. You know, it's making the world accessible through technology, which of course we know, and that's kind of been around for a long, long time. This distance and remote learning, it actually started more than a century ago. Things like, you know, and I go to Catherine's school at JISC, when the way they're using augmented and virtual reality, and you're using these screens and you're looking at things like you can look at the heart and getting into medicine or engineering and modeling things, or even historically speaking, going back to see previous wars and things like this. It's just so amazing the way technology can bring things to life. Not to mention, and Sharif's great with this, he's allowing us to use data in some real cool ways and supporting it. Even we just finished some school reviews where we create these reports. He's helping us give formats, and then the reports are written for us, and then we can tweak them from there. But the way AI can be used to play with data is really next level. We're very, very early in our journey for that, but Sharif's just showing me cool stuff every day. He's speaking here tomorrow, by the way. It's worth watching. You'll get more out of his than what you will from me. Obviously, this is a big thing, this idea of lifelong learning, right? Like, here we go, so I'm more than 50 now, and the things I'm having to learn and getting to learn is really, really cool. I was at a dinner last night with somebody who's flown in from the States. She's doing some work with some of our teachers on positive discipline in the classroom, which is absolutely amazing. And she brought, Joy lives in New York now, she brought her mom out. And it was her mom's dream to do a Nile cruise. So they did a dahabeya. And her mom, who's probably late 70s, we were talking about AI, and she's just like, but maybe I just want to live long enough to have all my questions answered. And I said, well, then you'll never die, I'm pretty sure. But it's, the way AI can help support us in that and become, and it's going to, like it or not, we're going to have to be lifelong learners, right? And then there's these ethical considerations. And like I said at the start, I'm a little nervous about all this. There's no doubt about that. But, what are the options? So, and you heard about, well, maybe we need to take a pause. But in reality, those that want to use AI for good, if they pause, those that perhaps are going to use it for, say, less good or bad reasons or do things that aren't ethical with it, are they going to stop? Absolutely not. So whether we like it or not, we've opened Pandora's box. We've got to run with AI. Hopefully, good will win out. So far in life, that's the way things have worked. Because back in 1995, with this internet thing and electronic mail, people were having those exact same conversations as well. Okay, can you play the video? This is Sal Khan from Khan Academy.
So, anyone who's been paying attention for the last few months has been seeing headlines like this, especially in education. The thesis has been students are going to be using ChatGPT and other forms of AI to cheat, do their assignments, they're not going to learn, and it's going to completely undermine education as we know it. Now, what I'm going to argue today is not only are there ways to mitigate all of that, if we put the right guardrails, we do the right things, we can mitigate it, but I think we're at the cusp of using AI for probably the biggest positive transformation that education has ever seen. And the way we're going to do that is by giving every student on the planet an artificially intelligent but amazing personal tutor, and we're going to give every teacher on the planet an amazing artificially intelligent teaching assistant. And just to appreciate how big of a deal it would be to give everyone a personal tutor, I show you this clip from Benjamin Bloom's 1984 2 Sigma study, or he called it the 2 Sigma problem. The 2 Sigma comes from 2 standard deviations, sigma the symbol for standard deviation, and he had good data that showed that, look, a normal distribution, that's the one that you see in the traditional bell curve right in the middle, that's how the world kind of sorts itself out, that if you were to give personal one-to-one tutoring for students, then you can actually get a distribution that looks like that right. It says tutorial one-to-one with the asterisk, like that right distribution, a 2 standard deviation improvement. Just to put that in plain language, that could take your average student and turn them into an exceptional student. It can take your below average student and turn them into an above average student. Now, the reason why he framed it as a problem was he said, well, this is all good, but how do you actually scale group instruction this way? How do you actually give it to everyone in an economic way? It only made the left cloud part, but then they can ask Conmigo, what's going on? Why is only the left cloud moving? And it understands the code. It knows all the context of what the student is doing, and it understands that those ellipses are there to draw clouds, which I think is kind of mind-blowing. And it says, to make the right cloud move as well, try adding a line of code inside the draw function that increments the right x variable by 1 pixel in each frame. Now, this one is maybe even more amazing because we have a lot of math teachers. We've all been trying to teach the world to code, but there aren't a lot of computing teachers out there. And what you just saw, even when I'm tutoring my kids when they're learning to code, I can't help them this well, this fast. This is really going to be a super tutor. And it's not just exercises, it understands what you're watching. It understands the context of your video. It can answer the age-old question, why do I need to learn this? And it asks Socratically, well, what do you care about? And let's say the student says, I want to be a professional athlete. And it says, well, learning about the size of cells, which is what this video is about, that could be really useful for understanding nutrition and how your body works, etc. It can answer questions, it can quiz you, it can connect it to other ideas. You can now ask as many questions of a video as you could ever dream of.
Oh. I'll let you get back to my presentation if it's okay. Okay, so there's a bit of a messy cut there, but I didn't want to go through all of his plugs about their AI tool, but it does seem pretty awesome. I would recommend watching, it's a 15-minute TED Talk. It's a real good one. He did this, I think it was around just about a year ago in my neck of the woods. He was doing a TED Talk in Vancouver, worth checking out. So, our background, I had the list of our schools. When I signed up with the organization 3 years ago, we had 4. We're at 11 now. We're pretty keen to grow, and we're spending a lot of time on it. And when we look at, well, AI and the way education's going and evolving, whether we like it or not, and good or bad, previous to this job, I was running a nice, lovely family-owned boarding school on Vancouver Island. Before that, I was with Nord Anglia, probably, you know, these are maybe the 2 biggest school organizations in the world. They're not going away, they're getting bigger. That's something that's happening more because there's so many synergies, and EdTech is even amplifying these synergies in education. And when I did this boarding school, a lot of what we did, and it was like, I don't know if you've ever been involved with one, but it is super cool. It's probably one of the things I love most about the job here. And we just, when you do a new school, you get this blank canvas and you get to make it what you want. And a lot of the way we did it is we started with our why. So highly recommend the TED Talk. The book's like 250 pages. The 20-minute TED Talk will suffice. It's worth checking out Simon Sinek's stuff there. And that really guided our what are we going to be about as a school. And did a lot of work with vision and mission on that. I had done that in previous schools before. And then my boss, a real cool thing I think, is working with people from different industries. And when you look at innovation, in any industry, you'll find the most innovative companies tend to have people from outside the business. So one of the things with my role, I'm the only sort of person with an education background outside the education team in the office. So our CEO worked with Procter & Gamble. He's a CFO, and it's great the questions they ask me and the way they challenge me about things that I think are kind of, well, this is how it is, but it's great the way you get to rethink things. And so we're talking about strategy, and I remember I've used this start with why stuff, and then he was talking about playing to win, and actually it's from A.G. Lafley, used to be the CEO of Procter & Gamble. And he was, I mentioned earlier, this idea of capabilities. Well, when you read this book, it actually has a huge amount to do about capabilities. And A.G. Lafley and Procter & Gamble, they talk about the way they've expanded, and you know, one of the largest organizations in the world is it's all based on their capabilities, and they compared it to the capabilities are like the steel rods in a building. They're the things that interconnect everything together. And so a lot of what's happening with these organizations and the discussions we have, which is pretty fun, is where to play. And that's just not physically, but it's also the markets, the sectors, what you're going to do with that. So, and I remember when I was with Nord Anglia, they had a really impressive corporate expansion team. And they could say, yeah, the market in the Philippines, in Manila, is pretty saturated. However, they could streamline it. And this is a London-based organization knowing about a neighborhood in Manila where they were trying to open a school. That was them really tuning in to where they wanted to play. And how are we going to win? So where to play, how to win, and that's really about what's going to make you special, which I remember the first time he's asking me these questions is a bit strange, but it wasn't at all different to when I started this boarding school, where it was a small boarding school in a remote area on a lake. And what we were about is we were going to bring in the IB program, so it was all about sort of modern approaches to teaching and learning. And I'm a big believer, I made reference to Joy coming to do some work with our schools in positive discipline. So you do a startup school. We had every single bus driver, cooks, boarding parents, teacher assistant, the owner, all of us did positive discipline as an organization before we opened the school to make sure we had this united purpose together. So we were about the interdisciplinary learning and then outdoor education, because we were at the base of a mountain and we had a lake, a beautiful lake right in front of us. So working with the environment was a big part about it. So, in my boss's Procter & Gamble speak, we were talking about where to play and how we were going to win. For me, it was just kind of like, this is what we want our school to be about. And it all came to our core values. And another story I had with that, I didn't have this marketing person when I was with Nord. And the lady flew in, Stacy. She was super, super impressive. And they had this like 80 slide PowerPoint. And she came in to meet me, and like my opening line was like, look, sorry, I didn't do my homework, but let me tell you about what we're about as a school. And we had spent a lot of time because we weren't clear on our vision and mission. We didn't know where we wanted to play, how we wanted to win. We didn't know what we were about. And we spent a lot of time on that, and we had just finished. So I talked to her about that. She's like, don't worry about any of that. I'll do it for you. And she did it on the flight home. She's like, all I need to know is your purpose. And you've got that. The other stuff is the marketing stuff. So I think, the marketing is driven by the core. So 2 awesome books. I do recommend them. Probably the TED Talk for the Start With Why. That's where I like to play. That was the view from my office in my last place I was working. And, what is the goal out of all this? Well, the goal of AI is to enhance HI. So we want artificial intelligence to enhance our human intelligence. Thanks so much for listening. Enjoy the next couple of days, folks.
Thank you, David. David is an educator and educational leader with great international experience, always insightful to hear. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being with us. For our second talk, I would like to invite Riham Diab from the Ministry of Education and Technical Education. Thank you for being with us again, Riham, for a second year.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning first. I'm happy for being here and participating for the second time in Education Experts. And it's my honor to be with you and welcome to you in Egypt again. First, I want to introduce myself. I am Riham Diab. I am a member of Ministries of Education and Technical Education Office in Ministry of Education. And my background was in education since I have graduated from education faculty. Then I traveled to South Korea to study my master's degree in South Korea in Korea National University of Education, and then I have finished and go back to Egypt, and then I traveled to America again in order to study for some months, training program, which was IVLP. It was also in education in the digital era. Then I have come back to Egypt, and then I have got my MBA program in Slaska University. I have finished it last April. And now I'm working on my PhD also in Cairo University. So I'm happy to participate with you again. So first, let us think about the gap that is in education, and how about bridging this gap? And what are the approaches for fostering the 21st century skills? So let's start by the topic, and I need you first to look at the main points. We will talk about the need for a change in education and skills evolution, also the bridging, how to bridge those gaps, and also essentials 21st century skills. What are the 7 C's of skills of 21st century, and then what are the ways to bring the 7 C's into teaching and learning, and finally some initiatives for fostering 21st century skills in Egypt. So here, I want you to imagine after 20 years, what will be the education and learning, what it should be like. How can you imagine students and their skills? And then you have to look about or think about the last 20 years. What were the skills like, and also how students were taught and how teachers were teaching in education. So let's imagine. I think that we will find a big gap. There is changes in everything. We have skills which are nowadays are essentials for our education and also for the future job market. So let's think about it, and we find that there are many trends in education, like AI now. But if we think about the last 20 years, we find that we don't have this. We just still use the computer and also the internet. It was not popular in education. So, but we find here in some schools in Egypt, because I'm from Ministry of Education, so I'll focus on public education and also the private education. But we find that, however, those trends, but we find that many public schools are still teaching skills which are traditional skills, and also students sit in the classroom, they just listen to lectures, and maybe the education is not exciting for them, or they are not excited by that type of methodologies. So then we find that they are learning from the same content and from the same resources, and we need the change in education. So why we need this change in education? We find that for being able to cope up with the future job market, we have to think about this education nowadays. So here we find that the job market is going to be different next years. So how can we prepare them for this? Also, the traditional skills, although they are valuable, but still we need to improve them. And also, finally, if we think about the 21st century skills, we find that they are important, and we have to thought about it, because next days we have new trends that students will not be able to cope up with them if they are not able to coping with the skills nowadays, or the education and trends nowadays. So, if we look at this, here is the skills evolution. This is from World Economic Forum Future Jobs Survey, and this is a survey. I don't know if it's clear or not. Can you see it? Sometimes. Okay, so I will explain. This is a survey about the future jobs and the skills that are needed for the next days. And this is from this is for the period from 2023 and 2027 years. So the upper skills here that will be important, or there will be an increasing importance for those skills, which will be the creative thinking, analytical thinking, technology literacy. They are the upper skills in the screen. And also the lifelong learning, resilience, flexibility, and agility. Also the system thinking, and all of these, which are with the blue color, well, increasing the importance for them. So we have to think of ourselves. We have to think of our methodologies. Does we focus on those skills, or we are just depending on the traditional ways of teaching? So then, according to World Economic Forum report in 2016, we find that 65% of children, after they finish, who are entering a primary school today, will ultimately end up with completely different jobs in the future. So let's think about just like 20 years. So there will be a change in all of the skills and all of the jobs that are existed. So how we prepare them for this? So now we have to think about the gap in education. This is the gap between the students now and their education, and also just the job market. How to prepare them for this future? We need to go beyond the content, the books, the curriculum that we are depending on. We have to focus on personalized learning, and also have to use technology in everything. Also, we have to change our teaching mindset. Then, what are the essential skills for the 21st century? We have the partnerships of the 21st century, and they were developed or they worked on a framework for the 4 C's of education, and they thought that these are the most important skills that we have to think about in our schools and in our education. The 4 C's were 4 competencies that begins with letter C. We have communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. But then there was another thought that we have to focus more on more skills for the next days. So there was a shift from 4 C's to 7 C's. Okay, and then we have the 7 C's of the 21st century, and those are the competencies that will be important for the next days, and they begin with 7 C's also, and these competencies will be important for not just education or schools, but it will be important for employers and workplaces and for the society itself. So we have to look at the 7 C's of the 21st century learning, and if we begin from the first one, which is critical thinking, and how to encourage students to think critically about everything. So we not just think about technology, but they have to work on themselves and how to think more about everything around them. Then creativity, and how to be creative in their thinking, and also collaboration. We will not work alone, but we have to depend on ourselves. We have to collaborate together in order to have achievements. Then also one of those 7 C's, or the new one, which is communication, information, and media literacy. And how we encourage students to think about the data, the information, and how they will use in the next days, and how will they communicate clearly with each others and be able to analyze those information. Also, we have the computing and digital literacy, and we know that we have to use technology in everything nowadays, so we have to work on these skills. Also, now, if we think about the world around us, we find that there is a big change in the political situation around us, so we have to think about the cross-culture competencies, or the cross-cultural understanding, not just for the war or the situation, a bad situation like this, but for the globalization. And through using technology, we are in a globalized world, so we need to know about different cultures. So we have to focus on those also in our curriculum. And lastly is career and learning self-reliance. Means the key word here is lifelong learning. So here are some ways that can bring the 7 C's into teaching and learning. First, we have to shift our mindset from just teaching to be focusing on the new ways. We don't need just like shift, but it will be a new balance. And I will show you a table that will show this shift. Then we have the questions and how to use them. And we have to invite students to use questions, not just think about the answer or listening to the answer. And the third one is creating opportunities for connection. And the first one is authentic problem solving, and last is formative and sustainable assessment. So here for the shifting mindset of what means teaching, if we look at this table, we find that we have to have a new balance. And this balance, we don't need to say that we will just shift from teacher-centered to learner-centered, but we have to find some shift or some balance between them. Also to think about the knowledge and how to use the skills also with this knowledge, also the content and how to be the process or the processing of this content. If we look at the other points, we find that we will have global community, not just focusing on the classroom and the curriculum. The text-based will be the web-based, and finally, learning for school to be learning for life. So then we have the second one, which is inviting questions, not answers. We need to change the way we teach, and we have to participate students to participate in inquiry, discussion, group discussion also in classrooms, and all of these will work on the 7 C's of 21st century skills. So then the third one is creating opportunity, and the key word here is collaborative learning, and how we encourage the students and motivate them in the classrooms. So we need to have something like listening to their viewpoints, how they discuss some topics with their children, how they have some questions, and how they think about the information they are studied, so it will be meaningful learning. And all of this will work on their also the skills. And then how to think about the authentic problem solving. And for the authentic problem solving, here we find that we are focusing on student-centered learning. And pedagogies also, we focus on design-based learning, project-based learning, and all of this will find that they are thinking about what are the problems and challenges around them, and they will be able to find answers for it. So it will be like real-world situations. And finally is formative and sustainable assessment, and how we encourage students to all of the time will be tagged and followed up by this kind of assessment, and it can be done by teachers and the peers themselves. So then here we have to think about the public education and how the government is working on the education. We know that maybe because there are some challenges in the education system in Egypt, and I think all over the world, we find that we have to work on it. We will not have children after those years that are not fitting with the skills and the global job market. So if we look at those pictures, those are like the initiatives and the projects that our Egyptian government are working on them. So we have different kinds of schools, we have different kinds of like platforms for students and getting information. And here, if we look at this is the first initiative, and they began this in 2017, and it's the Edu 2.0. And the Ministry of Education and the Egyptian government have thought about how to change our education system and how we have to preparing our students for next days. So they are working on different pillars. The first one is multidisciplinary curriculum, and then technology integration. We have also the CBD and the continuous and sustainable professional development for teachers and also the leaders, school leaders. Also, we have to think about the assessment, and they have prepared a new version of those assessments for students. Also, we have access and infrastructure, and they worked on how to have many schools and how to have new standards for those schools. So here we can find that there is the general framework for curricula, and this have been maybe finished for the primary schools year. So we have here the different skills, and if we look at them, we find that those are the 21st century skills, and they have been added to the curriculum. So then we have STEM schools, and now we know that this type of education is popular all over the world. That is a focus on science, engineering, technology, and also mathematics. So our government is focusing on just build those type of education or those type of schools in every governorate. So now we have just like one or two school of STEM schools in governorates all over Egypt. And I think that according to this type of education and the methodologies that are used, and they are not used just like the traditional ways, they are using projects and capstones. So students are prepared for the future job market, and we find that they go and travel to all over the world to find many scholarships to enhance their skills, and then go back to Egypt to find good jobs in STEM market. So then we have also in the technical education, maybe we can say that is a new shift. The government has worked on different initiatives. First, they worked on the strategy, the whole strategy for technical education, and now we find that there is like a new curriculum that is based on certain competencies for the technical education. And then also we worked on a new type of the education, which is applied technology schools. And those type of or this type of schools are being published, or they are established by partnerships between the government or the Ministry of Education and also the private sector. They have do many changes in this field, and we have now workers who are able to be competitive in this global market. And also we have the International Applied Technology School, and this is a new initiative. It will be like a partnerships also with the private sector, but here students have like international certificate, so they can work globally and also locally. So I want to end my presentation with this quote. It's for Peter Drucker, and he said that the only skill that will be important in the 21st century is a skill of learning new skills. So we are talking about different skills, but the most important one is to learn how to learn a new skill, and then everything else will become absolute over time. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being participating with this. Okay, thank you. And this is my information if you want to contact.
Thank you, Riham. I think we can all agree that the challenge of today's education is to produce or to teach students, to prepare our students for something in the future that we don't even know what it's going to look like. So, and Egypt's educational system is complex, right? There are private sectors and public sectors running at the same time, with obviously the same objective of enhancing the Egyptian education, the Egyptian children, and the foreigners who live here. So every presentation touches on one of these systems or all of them. Right. The next presentation is somebody very dear to me. I have collaborated with her for the last 3 years, maybe 2 years, on matters of education. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Tigreed Hussein. She's the president of Nile TV International. She was with us last year, but not with a presentation, so we are very happy that she has decided to speak to us as well today. Tigreed, please come.
Good morning. Thank you, my dear friend Schneider, the renowned educational expert who has been always a great image on Nile TV International that I'm really honored to chair as president. I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's not a presentation, but rather a short speech today to the renowned audience and to this great Congress that I'm really very much proud of, that it is held at AUC and on Egyptian soil this time. Warm greetings for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Well, how are you all doing? I wish that you're all doing well this morning. I, Taghreed Hussein, President of Nile TV International, welcome you all to the Education Experts Conference. Firstly, I would like to thank the experts for taking their precious time out and for making to this event. Secondly, I would want to thank my audience for being present here today. Please allow me to deliver a short speech on media's role in advancing innovation in education. In a rapidly changing world, innovation in education is not a luxury, but it is a necessity. Media today plays a crucial role in driving educational innovation forward, promoting and facilitating innovative practices in education. Media outlets today have the power to shine and spotlight on educators who are actually pioneering innovative teaching methods. Through interviews, through profiles, through feature stories, the media inspires educators to explore fresh approaches and engage the students as well as learning outcomes as well. Ladies and gentlemen, technology today is at the forefront of educational innovation. By making technology more accessible, the media encourages educators to embrace it. And innovative education often includes a focus on inclusivity. Media can support this, definitely, by featuring the resources and also the apps and initiatives that cater to the diverse learning needs and different styles. And by promoting inclusive education practices, the media today helps us ensure that innovative approaches would benefit all the students. Media today is playing a vital role in fostering public discourse about the future of education. Through expert interviews, as Schneider said, and the different panel discussions, we can really help promote this thought more and create this level of awareness with the audience on the importance, and providing also a platform for educators and policymakers and thought leaders to share their visions and strategies about educational innovation. And this is what actually Nile TV International is doing, and the approach that Nile TV is taking, media bringing the gap between viewers, schools, as well as the community, showcasing innovative projects and initiatives that include not only schools but also students. So education is a collective responsibility, and today let us recognize the integral role that the media can play in championing change. Today, media is a dynamic force driving educational innovation forward. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And with that, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taghreed. I realized while listening to Taghreed, who I know very well, I'm obviously chairing this this conference, but at the same time, my voice against her voice. I envy you for that. I wish I learned how to speak like that in a microphone, but luckily I don't have to do this all the time, so yeah. For our next presentation, we have a guest all the way from Bahrain, Dr. Paul Walton, and he has agreed to come and talk to us because he has heard of how wonderful our conference went last year, and he wanted to be a part of it this year. So change of experiences between Bahrain and Egypt.
Thank you very much. My name's Dr. Paul Walton, and I'm a principal in Bahrain, a school inspector, educational researcher, and also, like many people today, just an educator. So anything that I go through today with my presentation, I'm happy to share. Send me an email, contact me on LinkedIn, and I will share anything that I go through today. But it's a pleasure to be here today. I spoke at the last Educators Conference in Bahrain, and it was a wonderful experience. So if this is your first conference, you have a lot to look forward to. So if I could have my presentation loaded up. Okay. It's a real rock and roll title, Capacity to Improve the School and Lead Change Through Effective Evaluation. What I'm going to share with you today are some real life examples. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to share some research-based change management strategies that you can take away today and implement into your school. You can share them with aspiring leaders, anyone who you like. Everything I will share. And also some takeaways at the end that I would kind of recommend that you look at with your team as well. So one of the very first things I'll mention is that as educators, we often kind of go into a new school or a different school, either on our own or with a colleague, and we walk around the school, and every time we walk around the school, we'll look at different things. We'll compare against our school or a previous school. We'll be looking at the building. We'll be looking at the size of the canteen, the sports hall, the performance theatres. We'll be looking at the lessons and the feel and the tone of the lessons and the warm greetings that the students give us. Every single kind of minute as we walk around a new school, it's exciting. And in our heads, we're forming opinions and comparisons against the school that we work in on a daily basis. Because we love what we do and we always want to gain ideas and try and improve as well. So this is one of the things that I've been fascinated about for years, and one of the things I'm going to share with you is a framework that I've used across many schools to look at those different areas. It's always really exciting to go into a school, and all schools are different parts of their journey, and it's always wonderful, like I said, to bring those ideas back to your school. So, I don't know if the text is readable at the back. I think the white on the blue might not stand out. But there are 6 main areas. First of all, the quality of education. Anybody who's evaluated schools in the past would probably look at inspection reports, you look at the website, you look at the policies, all of those things that, if some of you have been through leadership courses and are trained head teachers, these are the starting points to gather that data. The quality of education overall. Finance and growth. As we go into a new school, you've probably experienced schools that have a lot of money to spend, some schools that don't, some schools that have debts, some schools that have an operating cost where the salaries are extremely high, and you might sit in a conference and share, different salaries and what schools are buying with resources and facilities and different things. So the finance aspect of this is really, really important for a school. Also, as a starting point in the school to then grow. If you have the money, you can invest in all of the different areas. Facilities. Constantly looking at those opportunities for the staff and the students. I think holistic education is probably going to be mentioned a lot of times today. With those opportunities and facilities, the students can develop the confidence, the self-belief, on the stage performing musicals, performances, sports, maker spaces, IT rooms. The facilities can be key, and in turn bring in lots of new families and new professionals to use those facilities effectively. My favorite student outcomes, look at the starting points from every single student. What value did we add? Every single student's success is valued. Those academic outcomes could come in the form of attainment, achievement, progress across the entire school, not just academically, but in the wider skills as well. So the student outcomes are essential. As I'm going through this, you may think that your school or the school that you know very well, you might think, actually, I know a school that didn't have great facilities, but the students' outcomes were sensational. They were wonderful. Or you might have moved to a new school, brand new campus with wonderful facilities, but you haven't yet had the opportunity to develop the other areas. Number 5 is very interesting, the quality assurance. We're surrounded by accreditations, kite marks, standards, and you will often see on websites international school accreditation, American school accreditation, British school accreditation, all opening the doors for professional development, student competitions, and collaboration between schools. This quality assurance, in turn, can also help build that trust with families who may look at the school, the exam accreditations, the EAL accreditations, the International Award, Duke of Edinburgh, all of the different areas, well-being accreditations, and that might be one of the reasons that they want to join the school. Community. This is immense in a school, and the buy-in from the parents, the word of mouth to promote the school. Again, you might have worked in a school or visited a school that didn't look particularly well, but something special happened in the school. Something amazing happened because the community wanted to be at all of the events. They wanted to support all of the students. The students made amazing outcomes, but maybe it didn't have the accreditations, it didn't have the investment, it didn't have all of those other areas. So again, this framework can look different for different schools. Okay, so this is the British International School of Ljubljana in Slovenia, in Europe. This is in March 2018. This is the school building, 3 floors. I joined there as principal, and I looked around. There was no library. There was no outside play area, green area. It didn't have a canteen, IT rooms. It was basically a collection of classrooms, and it was a very, very interesting challenge. The history of the school started in 2008. It went through 3 inspections in 10 years, through 2 different companies, the 3 inspections, and in each time it was rated from outstanding, good, satisfactory, or not met the requirements. It was rated as satisfactory 3 times in those 10 years. So quality assurance-wise, quality of education, that was tough. Community-wise, not many people were turning up to the events. The staff were unhappy. Retention was difficult. Recruitment was difficult as well. There was a lengthy diatribe from the parents about which areas of the school weren't functioning. Everyone was quite keen to give those opinions. So it was a real challenge. And to be honest to you, it was one that I was scratching my head and kind of kept thinking, where is the starting point? As many of you have done as well. Where do we start? Where do we go? What do we build on? So I used that framework again, and I've highlighted in yellow the inspection reports, 3 satisfactories. The finance, it was in debt, 2 loans, millions in debt. The facilities, no outdoor area, no field, nothing to encourage the students to go outside, no library, makerspace, performance area, no stage. So all of these areas that you would consider as key areas were not in the school. Student outcomes, the students performed lower than the average UK schools. When students did better, they were in a class with 1 or 2 students in an A-level class. Quality assurance, the accreditations were, we had a British International Schools accreditation and the inspection, but a lot of questions were coming through about the well-being of the staff and so forth. And the community, when I ran my first coffee morning, lots of people turned up, which sometimes isn't a good sign, because it means that they have lots of feedback to give you and lots of questions that they want to ask you as well. So the community not attending events was an area that we really have to start building trust, buy-in, and really working together with them. So 2 years later, after many changes, a second building was being created together with the building. So in that 2 years, all of those areas of the framework had been planned and we'd moved forward. And as David mentioned this morning, to start with why, I would live by that book. I would read the book. It's an amazing read. along with the other books from Simon Sinek as well, Leaders Eat Last, you know, wonderful reads. Any Star Wars fans in? The students in our school called the bridge between the two buildings a skywalk. We had lots of Star Wars fans, and it was just an example of how a simple thing like naming an area of the school brought happiness and smiles amongst every other part as well. 1 year after that, we had a completely finished brand new building which joined onto the old campus. So we had the classrooms plus also many, many key areas. I love this in the morning. I took this one morning that the whole building was operated from an app, so I could change the aircon, I could do the settings for the lights, but most importantly, I could change the color of the lights as well in the morning, which I really enjoyed as I come in. The classrooms are very spacious, between 60 and 90 square meters, wooden floors, floor-to-ceiling windows to bring in that light into the classroom. A beautiful woodland area was around the school as well, which gave me another idea, which I'll move on to. Also, one of the risks was to create a rooftop terrace classroom. It wasn't in the budget, but we kind of figured out how we could afford this, and we moved forward to then build in an area with a panoramic view of the mountains surrounding Ljubljana in Slovenia. I'm not a designer. I went straight to IKEA, student artwork on the wall, 4 nice tables, and a desk in the middle. Nothing special, but again, it added that freshness into the building. This is the woodland area. One of the things I'll mention in a few slides is about taking risks. Took a risk with knocking out 2 walls and making a large library, with building a rooftop terrace, and also one day to ring the municipality to say, there's a woodland area beside us, how can we use it? We haven't got a playground. And to cut a long story short, they allowed us to use a portion of the woodland with only one stipulation, which was, can you keep some trees? Of course, that's amazing, thank you so much. So I purchased 200 meters of fence, and then we built a fence around woodland so the students and staff could go outside. I also bought bird tables and did different things as well. It wasn't much to look at, the woodland area, some days, but when the snow fell and the students went outside, we had amazing fun. It was fantastic. And those experiences that the students could have from that small risk of a price of a fence was absolutely life-changing for all of us. So that's what the building looked like, and it seems very quickly to go through this, but we're immensely proud. So, after the 3 school inspections, after the hard work with the students, the community, the hard work with the staff, and one of the things that I'm probably proud of the most is that when I entered as principal, there was 4 leaders in the leadership team. And people will talk all day about change management and different things. It's about people. It's about working with people and having them believe in what you want to do and doing that together. Not talking about it, but doing it. Out of the 4 leadership team, 3 of the leaders were in the school all the way through the journey from the last inspections. We achieved outstanding in every category, which was a phenomenal achievement. The team were superb, but again, sharing with you all of those strategies and everything we did so you can kind of see it in a transparent way. There's nothing special. It was all about hard work and working together. 3 of those 4 had been there all of the time. Some quotes from the previous inspection report in 2017 and then in 21. Three quotes from the inspection report. This is not just about the building, it was about a whole school community changing. It's a bit bright. It's a colour. The standards achieved by students at Bissell are excellent, an outstanding curriculum, excellent teaching, and high quality attention to students' care lead to high standards across the school. The care was from us all. We opened the car doors in the morning to drop off. We ran clubs at weekends. We stayed back after school. We involved the parents. We involved the staff. We listened to people. And we worked hard as a team. And this is the most important thing. The students are happy. Okay, so school aside, Here are 3 examples of in various sectors about change management. It's very, very important to make sure we're following a blueprint, following a structure, and making sure everyone feels like the communication is clear and there's direction. So Starbucks, give me an idea. Customers had a voice. So again, surveys, parents, students, staff, coffee mornings for parents, open forums, open door, bringing the voice into the school and using ideas that the parents suggested. Put some long-term overviews on the website, no problem, done. Create a regular coffee morning so we can come in and speak to you, no problem, done. All of these simple ideas. Create a calendar of events that can be shared out, no problem, done. Can you do it in Google? Yeah, easy, done. All of these little nudges and these little wins really helped. Number 2, Netflix. This is the risk taken. You have to be ready for the change. Netflix took a huge risk. So just like the Woodland area, just like the terrace, just like knocking the walls out for the library, all of those were risks. So a part of your plan has to have something different that it may not cost a lot of money, just a risk and believe in it. A third example for you to share with teams is Domino's. I think I've invested a lot in Domino's over the years, but it was about using consumer data and about making sure that all of that survey data come back in. And again, as I mentioned, loyalty programs. I mentioned briefly that we did weekend sessions. We made this thing called enrichment days, which is 4 weekend days over the year where we basically had students in. They played. We had a barbecue. We played football and volleyball. But these 3 days went a long way. And those parents felt loyalty in the school because we were trying and we were connecting. So the process. At the end of the presentation, I'll finish with 5 takeaways, but this is sharing with you the process. There's 5 change management strategies. I've highlighted 2 in yellow. Those 2 in yellow would go overall my 5 overall suggestions for you to take away. Start, stop, continue. I'll explain very briefly, and I've put the hyperlink in there for you to click on outside. When people go to schools, they try and change too much too quickly. If you change too much, it causes unease, anxiety. If you don't change enough, then obviously you head in the same direction. So it's a balance. And one of the things I often do is to sit with the team and say, what do we continue? What are the strengths of the school? And that reassures people. What do we stop? What's in the way of us moving forward? And what ideas to start? Never do too many new things to start. Always try and get that balance. That's a very good suggestion. It doesn't make my top 5 though. Guskey's 5 level of PD evaluation. I'm passionate about professional development. One of the things I would suggest is that you create the professional development plan, and Guskey's model looks at the teacher participation, their reactions, the skills they've learned, the skills they can implement, organizational change, and student outcomes. To have a PD plan with some measurable outcomes is absolutely key. Brings in the staff buy-in, using the expertise in the school. Nudge theory, to make some options more appealable. Okay, full disclosure, I did do that. We wanted a healthy eating kind of a program at school. So I used to put huge bowls of fruit around the school. And I used to put them in places that the staff used to go past. And the staff would pick and eat apples and bananas and different things, because I didn't want to just say, hey, let's go and eat healthy. I wanted to give them a nudge to do that, to take away the barriers. It's free. Pick up an apple or a banana, have a conversation and eat some fruit. So that nudge theory is a very good one to gain that momentum. Kotter's 8-step change model. This is my number 1. I live by this. Like the Simon Sinek example, having that purpose, that belief. You know, first of all, start with a why. Making sure you have a vision, communicating the vision. And what I've mentioned earlier, starting with that coalition, that group of people around you who can really make it happen. The Lewin 3-step change, it's about unfreezing and getting everybody to realize you do need to change, setting about changing everything, and then embedding those changes in the future. 5 great models. 2 of them I'm going to put at the end on the recommendation list. This is Kotter's 8-step model. As I mentioned, number 1, number 2, create the urgency, powerful coalition, and create that vision for change by communicating it. This is my absolute go-to. And if you're a part of a team who's going through change management, even in the examples I shared with you in industry, it's imperative to have that plan, and this is one that I believe works extremely well. I'll go through this briefly because I don't want to run over too much. The quality of education, as I mentioned, was outstanding in every category. The finances and growth, all of the loans paid off. The EBITDA was over 10%, which was fantastic. The facilities, the campus size doubled. 20 extra classrooms, makerspace rooms, performance theatre. These are not just rooms. These are opportunities for the students to have experiences. So many things that we introduce in the facilities. Student outcomes. I'm very proud of the fact that 100% of our students achieved the university course of their dream in the country, the course of what they absolutely wanted. And that, for me, is a huge success. Quality assurance. We're lucky enough to be the first school to win 2 Wellbeing Awards internationally from 2 UK companies. Our curriculum was awarded as well, and we achieved the exemplary top rating in the Bell EAL Foundation as well. That's an excellent accreditation in case anyone's looking for it. Community, I've put down the bottom, facts and figures about parent engagement, parent recommendation, how happy parents were, and you can never underestimate the power of word of mouth. And I think that's the amount of parents that will talk about schools and the power of, you respect the power of word of mouth. I know we live in a kind of digital world. I'm a computer science teacher at heart, but it's about face-to-face, and it's about building those relationships with people. It goes such a long way. It's hard work, but working together, it's absolutely worth it. My team are great. Professionally, they're wonderful. Personally, over time, I think I probably speak for many of you, professionally you work with amazing people, but then personally over time, you like them just because they're good people as well. And I think that way around is a wonderful feeling when you know the person beside you is amazing at the job and also personally they're a good person. I think it's great. And my last slide out of 41, which I've tried to whiz through, create a change management plan. I recommend Kotter 8-step model. I think it's so easy. It dovetails in with many of the kind of research books, the Simon Sinek's of this world. I think it's such a good model, very transparent, and it will really reassure everyone through these change management cycles. Invest in professional development. I mentioned to improve a school. Professional development, in-house, it doesn't have to cost money. In-house, finding the strengths of your staff, creating breakfast CPD clubs, after-school CPD, online CPD, inset day, in-house CPD, online for free, collaborating with other schools. So many opportunities to build PD. Create a book list. Create a kind of coffee donut and pedagogical read for a page for a club. I don't know. Lots of ideas to really get everyone talking about teaching and learning, and thank them for doing it and show your appreciation for doing it. Share a vision and build trust. Trust for me is quite easy to explain. It's quite hard to do. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. For me, Covey gets it spot on. Make sure that I say to my team, I'm going to do this, small little promises, and I fulfill them all of the time. I start my day opening car doors to drop off. I do it every single day I'm on site. I make sure I walk around the school after I've done that. I do it every single day on site. It isn't the big things that cost you trust. It's about gaining trust through the small things because that reassures people. It makes people believe. If you're planning for next year, CPD-wise, I would strongly recommend that you add emotional intelligence skills to your professional development program. I think the world we live in right now, I think about managing and understanding, perceiving, and having that reason for emotional intelligence skills is very, very important, especially with team building. And I've put Salave and Mayer as an excellent kind of starting point. And then James Clear, Atomic Habits, embed consistency. Look for those 1% gains, and that's what it's all about. It's easy to stand here and be really happy, but it started at a hard point, and we have to be prepared for it and take one day at a time and take one step at a time, and I think these, for me, honestly, are good recommendations. On my last slide, I've put my email. Find me on LinkedIn. If there's anything you need, I am very happy to share. I'll repeat what I said at the start. I'm an educator. Once we walk through the door, we leave the schools behind. We're all here for the students. If there's anything I've mentioned, I'll ping me an email or LinkedIn, and I'll share it with you immediately. I'll be happy to. It's my pleasure to. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful 2 days at the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also a firm believer in Kotter's 8 steps for change. Parents are just so important. Dr. Walton touched on the community, and I also believe that parents are just the biggest ambassadors for a school. And as long as you collaborate with them, according to your principles, I agree, but they can just enrich the school and just bring more and more people to the school. As a result, at Excellence in Expert Education, we assess on FAME because we bring the parents' perspective on a school. And FAME stands for Facilities, Academics, Management, and Expert Support. So, yeah, lots of common points there. We're almost there. We're going to have a break in a few minutes, but not before we're going to listen to our wonderful sponsors, Renaissance. The floor is yours. I don't know, you prefer this one? Yes.
Thanks, everyone. I think Dr. Paul is going to be a tough one to follow on from, but thank you. If I could check the slides on the board, please. So, yeah, my name's Alex. I come from Renaissance. Some of you may know Renaissance, some of you may know GL Education. The two companies have merged together. And we're going to be talking a little bit today about assessment data and how we can really kind of overcome challenges with that to get as much out of our data and get as much kind of satisfaction for the students and for the teachers as possible. I know it's the coffee break afterwards, so I'm going to try and be as quick as possible. But I just want to start off with a question, because I think there's going to be quite a lot of discussion today, hopefully, to get some questions answered to talk about how people are using data in different ways. And the first question is actually talking a little bit about Netflix. So when we're using Netflix, on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to have a think, how long does it really take you to decide what you're going to watch? Are you kind of one of those people, you'll open it up, you know exactly what you're watching, and you're going to be there? Or are you a bit like me, where you're probably all the way down at a 10, you'll spend an hour or two trying to decide what to watch, and ultimately you just choose Friends at the end of the day every single time? So I want you to chat to the person next to you. If you've not said hello to them, say hello to them a while, and just have a go answering that question. What sort of person are you? Are you a 1? Are you a 5? Are you a 10? How long does it really take you to decide what to watch on Netflix? So just about 20 seconds, just giving a number to the other person next to you. So we'll come back to that in a second, because you're probably wondering, why is he talking about Netflix when he's talking about assessment? But I just want to talk a little bit about what we do at Renaissance GL. So I know there'll be lots of people in here that we do work with, but we work with schools not just in Egypt, but across the world, in supporting them with insights, with data, and just getting things set up in schools. So all those different things that you can have to get maximized student success and supporting learning for students worldwide. And again, I'm Alex. I've worked in the UK as a teacher for 5 years, and now I'm working on the other side for Renaissance. I'll come back to this in a second, because I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is just having a look at the outcomes for today. So we're going to reflect a little bit about how you and your staff use data for meaningful impact. We're going to derive key hypotheses on these different areas and what we can get from these bits of school data. Have a look at what data triangulation is. So how can we get the most for our insights as we move forward? And then finally, having a look what best practice looks like. So we're going to have a look at some of those challenges, but how can we get the most out of those challenges as well? But the reason why I asked that first question about Netflix is because everything that we think about, whether it's assessment data, whether it's all those movies, or whether it's all those episodes of Friends on Netflix, that's all kind of little pieces of data. And whenever we have more data, can make us a little bit confused. If I'm looking through all these new films that have come out, I'm thinking, really, I don't know what to watch. Let's just go with the tried and tested. And with assessments, it can be the exact same as that. All we think about now is all the time we're trying to do different kinds of summative, formative assessment, whether it's homework, whether it's things we see in the classroom, whether it's assessments that you do at the end of term, CI, GCSEs. all these pieces of data can really kind of cause quite a lot of confusion. And the thing that we're really looking for is how we can get the right amount of data so we don't have that confusion, but we can really kind of get the most of our outcomes as well. So it's kind of looking for that sweet spot in the middle. And that's challenge number one. How can we really find what we want from our data? So this is one of our schools we work with, the British School in Prague, and they basically said they have 18,000 student data points every single year. And the school really needs to find a way to make sure they can have success with that data. How can you get the most out of everything you're looking for? And the word at the bottom here is appropriate for their needs, because every single school in here will have their own context, whether it's an American international school, an Egyptian curriculum school, or a British curriculum school. You have your own context, and you need to find what's appropriate for you as you move forward. So that's challenge number one. And challenge number two is about avoiding bias. So another one of our schools we work with is the British School in Jakarta, and it's all about giving context to data. Because if I just show this on the right, ultimately at the heart of everything that we're doing in education is the child. We want to make sure the child's supported, and maybe you'll see a piece of assessment data, and it doesn't really match up completely in terms of where we think they should be. So why is that data showing this? And around here, I know one or two of them aren't the clearest, but you've got a few questions that every time you have a piece of data or information on a student, certain questions are really, really important to kind of avoid that bias. So are we meeting their needs? Is everything met for this student? Are they part of any vulnerable group? Do we know what their life at home is like? Can we really identify these different things? One thing which obviously in Egypt is going to be very common is, are the students in a sort of international school? Are they English an additional language? Can we support them? Are they really able to adapt to what's going on with this? And all of these different questions, who else shares your concern? And I think it was a little bit like we were talking about with Dr. Paul before, in the sense where we were saying that communication is so important between all the staff. Because one person may have a concern, they might not share it with someone else. And it's about sharing that concern, and then a picture will really start to emerge. So challenge number two, I would say, is really kind of how we can avoid that bias. So we're trying to think, what does the data really say about your school? Where do these challenges come? And this is where I want three different questions. I know there's sort of teachers, there's people from university, there's exhibitors in here, but I want you to have a think in your own context. Think about three pieces of data that you collect. So it can be, I know there's going to be the obvious one, we're looking at assessment data. Thinking about this, what do we collect? But question two, why are we doing it? Because a lot of time we'll spend a lot of time collecting data, collecting other sources of information, but what's the real purpose of this? Why are we doing that? And then point three, what are we getting from that data? Does it tell us anything, or we've just got it there to look at and it looks nice and pretty? So again, if we say maybe 1 minute, just having a quick discussion, talking about any piece of data. If anyone does want to share answers afterwards, it would be lovely, but don't worry, we can go through afterwards. So maybe just 1 minute, hopefully we can get some discussion from that. With each other, if possible, please. Okay, so I can see some discussion, some good discussion happening around the room. Does anyone want to share any one example of data that isn't assessment data that maybe we collect in a school? So if we're thinking, you could just shout it out, but anything that's not a piece of assessment data that we can use in a school? So not assessment data, anything else? Health and well-being. So, yeah, we can have a look at attendance, we can have a look at health and well-being, all of these pieces of data. If we're thinking about everything can relate to where a student bit of success can come from. And then we're thinking, what's the reason for collecting them? Attendance data. You're thinking, if a student's not coming into school very frequently, that's going to be a point for concern for you. So what can we do to get with these different things? And it's about asking those questions, what does the data tell you, and how can we get the most from them? So data every single time tells a story, and you can think of it almost like Lego bricks. When we have all of our pieces of data, you've got all these bricks all over the place. It makes a bit of a mess, just like Lego. If you stand on it, it'll give you some pain. Data might give you a bit of a headache. You can sort your data in nice different ways. You can maybe get heads of department, heads of year to have data, each of them looking after a certain piece of data, but you're thinking, how's this being used? Is it being used correctly? Then you can arrange it in a nice way. Maybe you've got some lovely Excel spreadsheets. Maybe teachers are working on a Power BI. What can we do with that to make it look all nice and pretty? But these last two are the most important. How can we explain it with a story? And that's where we add the context of the student. By explaining it with a story, we can make something out of it. We could start to make it into a home, but it's about making it actionable as well. So what can we do once we've had that data to move forward with it? And that's where we can really kind of start to see that our data can be useful for moving forward. Maybe we can make it into a cutlery holder or get some keys, but you're not going to do that with your data. The actionable side for this is what can we do to get the most out of our student outcomes moving forward. So it's about fixing the wrong things. So I'm going to skip through these because I could just see that Ben's come in the room, so I know that the coffee break must be starting soon, so I'll move forward. But again, it leads us to those questions. So at Renaissance and GL, what we do is lots of different assessments, how we can get the most out of this, whether it be sort of ability data, attendance data, or having a look at some of those different areas. But we can also have a look at well-being too for moving forward. So all evidence of this has to be in context and put it into a bit more of a data puzzle. So we've got I've gone back, but we had 4 questions, which I'll kind of skip through these questions because they're really key questions to think about with every piece of data. So number 1 is, what are the drivers in your school? Why are we having a look at collecting this data? What's the reason why we're looking at this? Question 2 is, what does success really look like in schools? So success can be student happiness, it can be good results in the IGCSEs, it can be anything that you want success to be. But it's all about how we're measuring success and celebrating success as much as possible, not just for the students, but for the teachers. And then question 4 is, what's the evidence of this? And I know there's lots of different ways of finding that evidence, but the challenge is really what we can do to get the most out of that. So in terms of how we can look at this is based off the Ofsted framework, and you've got the 3 I's here. So the intent. What do we want our students to learn with something here? What's the point of this data? What are we hoping to get from it? Part 2 is, how are we going to deliver that learning? What are the insights we're going to get from data to move forward? And part 3 is, did your actions result in learning? So that's the ultimate goal. Are the students progressing? Are they learning in what we're looking at? So one which I have very frequently in my work with schools in Egypt is to improve the literacy and language skills of EAL students, but we're having a look at how we'll deliver that learning. And that's where we use assessment data. You can look at English scores. You can look at scores they have in ability tests to say, how can we get there? And that's where each of those different levels can really be useful. Check my watch. Right, I will be very quick for these next bits because I'm not going to do this question. But it's about thinking for this. Data can really be daunting. So it's about ensuring that as teachers and as leaders, you are giving everyone the tools to read their data and show them how they can have their teaching to be accessible and meaningful and have that impact on all of their students. So it's about thinking about these 3 questions: the accessibility, the training, and the responsibility. First question is, who are we giving access to the data to? Who has access? Are we giving it to everyone? Because if we think you give everyone the data, say go and do what you want with it, I know from my own experience in teaching, when I've got all these books to mark, all these lessons to plan, I won't really think about it too much because priority is going to be the lesson that I'm teaching. It's about thinking, are we able to understand it? So giving them training, giving them regular support, but also giving them that responsibility and saying, are we using that data to really impact decision-making moving forward? So how can we give them these pieces of data? So those are some more discussion questions. If you want to take pictures of it and send it to anyone in school to think about that, but it's about thinking, what can we do to positively impact teaching and learning to overcome these challenges? And ultimately the solution is, I know that we do lots of it in terms of schools we work with, but trying to have data as concise and triangulated as possible. So there's this puzzle for data triangulation, which is seen as assessment being a tool to gather evidence. It will lead you to questions because you're going to get the questions from those pieces of data, but adding the context is the really crucial thing. And that's where we can kind of have all of these 4 different parts. Obviously, assessment is just a small part of this because we have our conversations with our parents, we have the conversations with teachers, but we also have those things in terms of the attendance and the teacher observations as well. The teachers, you know the students better than any piece of data can probably tell you, because you can see these things every single day. You know what they do, you know how they are, and you interact with the students. So really what you're able to do is identify all of these together, and you can start to get some of those answers as well. And that's where the power really comes from with that complete puzzle there. So I'll whiz through this because I'll probably be another 2 minutes or so. But in terms of how we tend to cover things at Renaissance GL Education, it's more of a cyclical process. So you can have a look at the assessment, come into planning, and then come into instruction. Some of you may have heard of some of the assessments that we offer in terms of the CAT4, the NGRT, the PASS, but we're going to finish off just by looking a little bit at the dashboard as well. So we can triangulate this surrounded by the teacher judgment with your ability, your attainment, your barriers to learning, as well as having a look at some of the STAR assessments on the Renaissance side as well. It's about describing where we can see this. Are our students making the progress that's expected of them? Is it lower? Is it higher? And that's where you can have a look at some of these things and the questions can really start to be asked. You can have a look at using these different things to say, what are the questions? How are we supporting learners on these one-to-one basis, on a class basis? But I just want to finish for one thing as well by talking about fragile learners, because particularly in the year since COVID, fragile learners are something that have really kind of emerged. And it's about using well-being as a tool to really support students with things, particularly in the EAL context. So I found that in my experience working with schools across Africa and North Africa, verbal deficits where learners are really struggling is a key piece of data to identify, are our learners performing well on the English side of things? When they're struggling to understand the content in the classroom, their well-being will suffer as a result. So really you're trying to understand, can we use these different pieces of data in a contextual understanding? So you can start to look at something like this, using data to really see who those students are. Are they likely to achieve their potential? Are they not likely to achieve their potential? And what can we do to go from there? And that's where some of those key questions come in terms of looking into further support for students. I will go to the last slide because I think probably it's about time to go for a coffee break. But again, having a look at something like this, having a look at tracking for this, how can we support students, and just really continuing to get those questions and answers when it comes to assessment. So if any of you do want to learn a little bit more about what we could do to support with assessment, how we can support sort of schools in understanding this data, now that you're a bit more aware of what those challenges are, I am just outside the door. So please come and speak to me, come and speak to all the other exhibitors, because it's lovely to kind of get those interactions with schools. And also I know some of you probably over emails and Teams, so it's nice to see people face to face too as well. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you all enjoy the coffee break.
Could I just, shall I just say it? Yes. Could I just say, 1 minute, please? AUC would like to let you know that at 4:15, there will be a campus tour for whomever's interested. Yes? So basically it's when we finish here. Now, please enjoy your break, network. Please talk to our wonderful sponsors and exhibitors, and can we please have everybody back here in about 20 minutes? Now, if I say Egyptian time 20 minutes, yeah, kind of British time 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
مساء الخير. احنا عاملين التور ده ان شاء الله هيكون الاسامبلي بوينت بتاعتنا قدام شفيق جبر، اللي حابب ان شاء الله يطلع ياخد تور في الكامبس تعرفوا على المكان وتشوفوه.